older better?
Well, let's find out in this week's review when we're looking at the Suntory Old Japanese Whiskey. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the Whiskey Nerd.
I'm Rose and I'm the Whiskey Noob.
And like we said, this week we're looking at the Suntory Old Whiskey, so we get it into the glass and I'll tell you a little more about it.
The bottle is really cool looking.
Yeah, so this is the bottle they sell at the airport. It has kind of a design that looks meant to look like the old kind of lacquerware.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But the actual shape of the bottle is the same as the normal version of it.
Okay.
So this is a Japanese whiskey.
Yeah.
And it's called Suntory Old.
Okay.
Because it's meant to be a little bit better than some of their other. So if you're ever in Japan, you'll see a whiskey, the Suntory Kabukin. It has this. It's very distinctive in a square bottle. Well, a square like. I guess it's a tall bottle, but the shape of it is square, kind of like the Bushmills bottles where it's square.
Yeah.
And that's like their entry level whiskey in Japan. You see it in every single grocery store you go. It has very distinctive kind of entry level style, and they kind of have this whiskey here as being a little bit better than it.
All right.
And they have another whiskey, the Suntory Royal, which is meant to be even better again.
Oh.
That's this whiskey here. We'll be probably filming the review of this whiskey straight after this one, but the review will probably come out in a week or two, so just check back to see this one, because they're all meant to be different styles of whiskey to approach different kind of people. So I think the joke they had was that the Kabukin was something you got when you first got a job. When you were entry level, datum entry, you had something simple.
Yeah.
The Suntory Old was something maybe after you got a bit of a promotion, you became middle management. And then the Royal was something you got when you were the boss. You were actually up the top, because it was a bit more expensive.
Okay.
But then they were kind of in an odd position where they said, how do we market this whiskey? Because you got the entry level whiskey, you got like kind of the top end whiskey.
Yes.
How did you deal with this one?
You can't call it middle management whiskey.
No, and it's like a whiskey that people don't want to stay drinking forever.
Okay.
So it was in the post-World War II period when they were like, the Japanese economy was kind of recovering after that period. And they said, let's commence what they called Operation Chopsticks. Because what they did was they actually went into a lot of restaurants as in chopsticks to eat, and they said, here, let's pitch this as an accessible whiskey that you'll drink out.
Okay.
Because it's not going to be so expensive that bars are going to upcharge you so much.
Yeah.
Something you can enjoy that's not the basic level. And it's kind of pitched at that price where they could compete with things like sake or beer or things like that, where it was like a nice entry level, not entry level, but a nice mid-level whiskey that you still wanted to drink.
Okay, so probably like maybe work parties or something.
Work parties, things
or you're
like
going
that.
out with your colleagues after work and you're like, what could be good? Not the stuff I've got at home maybe, but maybe this would
a little
be
bit better,
nice one.
yeah. And you wouldn't like break the bank if you had a few measures of it. That kind of like where you could enjoy it, and you said like at a work party or something like that.
Because you're not the boss yet, so you don't have that flowing money.
No, it does have a little screw cap, so it's not hiding what it is. It's meant to be a little.
It's functional.
It's functional. It comes in at 43% alcohol by volume, and it is actually compliant with the new rules.
So it's Japanese
whiskey. It is 100%
whiskey.
Japanese whiskey. So it's coming from the 3 Suntory whiskey distilleries.
Okay.
The Chita, which mostly is known for making grain. The Yamazaki, which is known for making kind of malted whiskey. And the Hakushu, which is known for making kind of peated or slightly smoky whiskey.
Okay.
So they don't say what the blend is, but it's going to be probably mostly grain.
Yeah.
With a little bit of malt in from those other 2 whiskey distilleries. Maybe lighter on the like smoky one from the Hakushu, just to be like add a bit of backbone, but probably not to be very smoky because it's meant to be approachable.
Okay.
And I think that's all there is. Like, there's not a huge amount on this whiskey online. There's not a huge amount of information.
So maybe we'll have to find out ourselves.
Just to find out for it. Do you want to go in for it?
Yeah.
Let's go in for the nose. Cheers.
Cheers. Slancha. Kanpai.
Kanpai, as they say in Japan.
Oh my god, that smells delicious.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. It was just like a whoosh of sweetness, like the caramelly. Not like perfumey or apple blossomy or anything.
Yeah, it's very, like, they don't say what casks are used for this. There might be, it's probably mostly ex-bourbon casks, maybe a little bit of sherry in there as well.
That's what I was thinking.
Because those, the 2 malt whiskey distilleries, they generally, I think they're known for having a bit of sherry component in there. So there will be some, but again, they're not saying what's in it. It's just Suntory whiskey.
Oh, but it smells so good.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you almost, a little bit almost like icing sugar. Like there is.
I was gonna say cake.
Like
it reminds
kind
me
of
of
a
cake.
cake.
Vanilla cake.
Like there's a lot of like a vanilla sponge cake with a bit of like vanilla icing on top.
Yeah.
You can get the grainy note in there. I wouldn't say like ethanol, but like nail polish. But like it's heading in that area where.
Definitely don't want my whiskey smell like nail polish.
No, but it definitely has that kind of like. There's a note you get with like kind of mass-produced grain whiskey.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of that. Maybe it's not super old, despite the name of it being old.
Well, it doesn't need to be super old, just be old.
Old, or I guess it could be old. 1-year-old, 2-year-old. It's old. Yeah.
Middle age, middle management, middle old.
Middle old. The more I sit with it, the more I'm getting like a little bit of like the flesh of a red apple.
Oh.
Like after you
like
bite.
Granny Smith?
No, a red apple.
Is that not? Oh, it's nice that.
Granny Smith's a green apple.
Okay.
Yes. You know, like a red, like a Fuji apple or like a golden
Yeah.
delicious. One of those like. Where
Like a juicy red.
Yeah, where it's not super tart, but it's a little bit juicy. It's not super like it says, kind of on that lighter end. There's like a touch.
Like a ripe one.
Yeah, there's like maybe a touch of. It's very light. There might be a touch of like oak in there.
Oh.
But like not a huge amount. It's not like.
Okay.
Maybe just like a little bit of like that oak spice as opposed to.
I'm just getting that vanilla cake.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
vanilla cake forward, very vanilla sweet forward.
I like my whiskeys vanilla cake forward.
Vanilla cake forward. Would you like to go in for the palate?
Let's do it.
Cheers.
Gunfight. That is good.
Yeah, it's much like richer. So the nose is actually quite light, but once it's your palate, it's much richer. It's like thicker. It's almost like honeyed.
Yeah, it's thicker like honey.
Yeah, but there's also a fair bit of spice.
Yeah, it got a little spicy there.
Yeah, there was like,
Is it autumnal whiskey?
I don't know if it's autumnal whiskey, but there was a bit of like maybe white pepper, maybe like a bit of like cinnamon and
I was gonna say cinnamon,
spices.
yeah, baking spices for sure. And it doesn't taste like an apple pie.
No, it definitely went more into the spicy, kind of almost biscuity.
Yes.
Where if the nose was cake, the palate is more like biscuity, like those cooked grains.
Oh, is there like an apple biscuit? Oh, I feel like I can't remember it, but I'm just there in my memory.
Like one of the Girl Scout cookies?
Maybe.
Is there? Okay. But yeah, I'm not really...
Something Grandma might have made.
Something Grandma might have made. Like there is still a little bit of fruit, but it's behind all that spice. Actually, it's interesting, not as vanilla-y.
Really?
Like on the nose, very vanilla-y, but on the palate, it wasn't super vanilla-y.
Maybe because it's biscuity and the vanilla was baked away.
Yeah, definitely like... Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of oak. A little bit of like that spiciness there coming through as well. Less of that sweetness, but it's... The sweetness maybe moved from that vanilla icing sugar into that kind of honey richness.
Yeah, because it was still really thick.
Yeah.
Like there was still, I think it was that sweetness up front and then spices at the back. Yeah. And like even now it's like lingering in like my mouthfeel with the spices.
Yeah, like the finish on it, we'll get to the finish in a minute, but it's not super long, but it's also not super short. Like there is a nice bit of a character to it into the finish. But yeah, onto the palate, like it's again, it's still light. It's still light.
It's very pleasant.
It's very pleasant.
Like it does seem like it's not like you can see where they're going with it because it doesn't taste like an entry level whiskey. Like it tastes well rounded. There are set flavors in there. Like it's nice. Like I totally get where they're going with it.
It doesn't taste like a cheap whiskey.
No, not at all.
But it also doesn't taste like a really complex whiskey. It is like that middle management.
I think it's a ladies lover whiskey.
A ladies lover whiskey.
I think this is a good whiskey for anyone who has a bit of a sweet tooth.
Yeah,
or anyone.
It's quite sweet.
It is quite sweet. Yeah. And if maybe you're not like super into whiskey, but you'd like to maybe get into whiskey or have a whiskey on occasion, I think this bad boy is where to go.
Yeah, because again, it's something I can see people like holding on to on the shelf.
Yeah.
And you don't drink it every single day, but you pour yourself a little glass. But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for the finish?
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers. Goodbye.
Okay, so the finish. It's not, like I said, it's not super long.
Yeah.
It's not, but there is like a bit of, like with the spiciness with like the white pepper, bit of like the bit of like the biscuity note, the honey mouthfeel. It does go on a bit longer than some Japanese whiskeys, like especially since it was so light in the nose.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting it to just kind of fall flat on the finish. It goes on probably medium length finish, I'd say, yeah.
Like, it's definitely not a harsh finish or anything like that, but it's also not like a long finish. I do feel like the tingleys from the baking spices at the end. There's a bit of warmth that's there. But it's not a harsh thing. Like, really, this is quite an easy drinker.
Yeah, it's easier. Like, after a breath now, as I'm talking, I'm getting a little bit of like that red apple again from like the nose I was getting.
Yeah.
But there's no like left turn. There's no extra flavor. There's no new thing. It's just the flavors are kind of they change a little bit in balance. Like you go more sweet on the nose, more biscuity on the palate, but they're all kind of the same flavors are all still in there.
It's like kind of going and watching a rom-com. You know what you're going for. You know how the general arc will go, and you're pretty darn satisfied at the end because it kind of went how you thought it would go.
Yeah, it's when it goes.
This is not a thriller where there's everyone's dead at the end.
No, this is definitely I don't know what kind of rom-coms. But yeah, it's just an easygoing whiskey.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything like.
I would totally drink it.
I mean, like before we give our final thoughts, we kind of just given away our final thoughts. If you're new here, scroll down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. We put out whiskey reviews every Wednesday. We want to put out cocktail recipes every Friday, and I will have a cocktail recipe featuring this whiskey this Friday. So if you want to see that, make sure you check back. But yeah, it's an easygoing whiskey.
Yeah,
it's great. It's nice. It's
I really like it.
Again, like you said. I like that it's an all Japanese whiskey as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of like Japanese whiskeys up to now, especially ones you can get internationally, have a bit of other whiskey blended into them. They have a bit of like non-Japanese whiskey blended into them. So it is kind of nice to say, oh, here is a Japanese whiskey. This is actually Japanese. It's not the most fancy whiskey in the world, but also it's not the cheapest whiskey in the world. So it is nice to have on the shelf, I think, as a nice little bit of a daily drink, or what is it, you call it, a ladies lover?
A ladies lover.
A ladies lover. Yeah. So I think we're going to keep on enjoying it.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.